Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to do a 2024 election prediction between the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, and the current president of the United States, Joe Biden. Assuming both of these are the nominees for each of their political party, assuming Ron DeSantis wins the Republican nomination and Joe Biden does run for re-election and wins the Democratic nomination for president. Joe Biden will be running for his re-election campaign against Ron DeSantis in this hypothetical 2024 election prediction. So we're going to jump right into it. I'm going to go through majority of these states, a lot of the swing states, a lot of the battleground states. So we're going to get into it. We're going to look at some results from different and past elections, and I'm going to give you my prediction on how I see this election going if it were held right now for a 2024 election run. So with that being said, if you guys like this video, hit the like button, and if you guys like my content, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. It's that either that white button or that black button, depending on what cosmetic mode you have your YouTube set at. So moving on, we are going to jump right into it. So we have Ron DeSantis versus Joe Biden, two very controversial names, two very popular names, with Biden being the president of the United States and Ron DeSantis being a very popular governor from the state of Florida. So I'm going to go through and give you my safe states, safe, likely, lean, and tilt states for both candidates. So let's go. So for Ron DeSantis' safe states, we have the states of Alaska, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska at large, 1st and 3rd district, South Dakota, North Dakota, Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, Utah. None of this is a surprise. Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, South Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, and Indiana. So that's the safe states for Ron DeSantis. And some people, depending on your margins, you might have Maine's 2nd congressional district safe, but we're not gonna put that safe for this election. We'll get to that district later. So moving on to likely states. So if we go back to the 2020 election, we saw that Joe Biden won here. And first of all, I'm going to start at Texas. And we can see Texas right here. Donald Trump won with 52.1% to Joe Biden's 46.5%. So a very close election here. And you can see that the progressing Democrat areas, you can see how they're progressing more and more in the state of Texas. And the state of Florida is actually becoming more and more conservative while Texas becomes more democratic. This is a normal map for Florida. So we saw that Donald Trump won here 51.2% to Joe Biden's 47.9%. If we look back in 2016, when Donald Trump first ran, he was able to flip the state of Florida winning with 48.6% to Hillary Clinton's 47.4%. So they both did fairly well in the state. Donald Trump, excuse me there. Donald Trump was able to win this state, which was very good for him. Besides the leads here. But as we can see, the change from 2012, these very rural areas, Florida really helped Donald Trump boost him to the finish line there. So that's good. So if it were to be Ron DeSantis, obviously he'd get his home state of Florida, and we're actually going to put Florida as a safe state, just because of the 2022 results. Ron DeSantis won with a safe margin of 49.4% to Charlie Crist 40%. Charlie Crist only won 5 counties. We have Broward County, Orange County, however you pronounce that county, Alachua County, let's see, Leon County, and Gadsden County. So all these counties, that's only counties that Charlie Crist won, and he didn't even win them with that great of margins. This one was a likely, but yeah. So as we can see, Ron DeSantis did very well. Marco Rubio also did very well in the state. So I don't see why Ron DeSantis couldn't do better than Donald Trump in the state in 2024 if he were to be the nominee. So I am going to put this state as a safe state as of the time of this video, just because it's getting more and more conservative. Ron DeSantis really pushed that through, and I think it's gonna resonate with voters and stay like that for a very, very long time. I think Democrats are pretty much done in the state of Florida. I don't think they really have that many competitive races with the governorships and Senate. There might be a few here and there, but I really think it's going to be easy for Republicans to keep going in the state of Florida. So I'm going to go to Joe Biden's safe states. These are the states of Washington, Oregon, California, Hawaii, the District of Columbia, Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Vermont, Maine's 1st Congressional District, New York, and Illinois. So those are the safe states. They've pretty much been safe states for a long time. That's like a 17-point lead. I'm sorry, yes, a 17.1 lead there for Joe Biden in 2020. And for what we saw with Hillary Clinton, it was a pretty big margin as well in that state. So moving on, we can go to Ron DeSantis' likely states. This is the state of Texas. Like I said, I think that he's going to do very well. I think he's going to improve on Donald Trump's areas. I think he's going to win with a larger margin. Let's see what 2016 had. 52.2% for Donald Trump, and in 2020 he got it with 1%. So not much difference between the two elections, 2016 and 2020. I think that Ron DeSantis might be able to improve a little bit on there, but I think it's just going to be around the same margin. It's going to be a win. It's not going to be a landslide. It won't be like the George Bush elections. George Walker Bush, because he was a governor of Texas, he won by like 20-some points in his 2004 election, I'm pretty sure. So he did an outstanding performance in the state, but I don't think that Ron DeSantis will come close to that margin. So moving on, we have the state of Iowa. This is a state that I think that is going to stay with conservatives and Republicans just based on the trends as we saw in 2020. It went to Donald Trump with 53.1% to Joe Biden's 44.9%. And in 2016, it went to Donald Trump with 51.1% to Hillary Clinton's 51.7%. So that's almost a 10-point lead in the state. So that's very good for that was very good for Donald Trump in 2020 and 2016, and I think that is going to stay with the voters, and I think it's going to stay with conservative. Iowa, I think, is going to stay in the Republican column. So Ron DeSantis might be able to improve on Trump's margins in 2020, but I think it's going to stay around the same. And speaking of Iowa, we also have Ohio. Ohio is a very conservative state now, as we saw Donald Trump won this state with 53.3% to Joe Biden's 45.2%. And in 2016, Donald Trump got it with 51.3% to Hillary Clinton's 43.2%. Donald Trump is able to resonate with working class voters, and Ron DeSantis can do the same. I think that he's going to be able to pull off in Ohio. I don't think it's going to be I don't think Joe Biden's going to have enough momentum to push him over the finish line in Ohio or Iowa, and I think those two Rust Belt states are going to go with Ron DeSantis. Two very, very important states that the governor must have to win, and I do think he will take it. So we also have Maine's 2nd Congressional District. I think that Ron DeSantis will get this with probably around 7 to 9 points, somewhere in there, but I do believe that he will be able to take that district. For Joe Biden's likely states, what are his? Well, let's go through right now. We're going to start with the state of Virginia. Virginia is going to stay with Joe Biden. Joe Biden did very well in 2020 against Donald Trump, winning with 54.1% to Donald Trump's 44%. So that was exactly a 10.1 margin in the state of Virginia, and that was basically because of Virginia Beach suburbs, Richmond suburbs, Roanoke suburbs did go for Donald Trump. That is a fairly conservative area. But Roanoke, the city of Roanoke, did go for Joe Biden. That is very expected. And the D.C. areas of Alexandria near Maryland. So those Fairfax County, all that Alexandria. all went for Joe Biden with very sizable margins, and I think that it's going to stay like that for the President of the United States, as we saw in 2016. Donald Trump did very, very well in 2016, getting areas that, Barack Obama had flipped in 2008. 2004, George Bush held that state, and then come in 2008, we saw that Barack Obama was able to pick it up. Hillary Clinton barely hung on to this state. It was a very big state that Trump needed, that would have liked to get, but unfortunately his campaign was not able to get that in 2016. And same goes in 2024. I do not think that Ron DeSantis will have the momentum to get the state of Virginia. He might come close. He might get it with around 9%, but it's not going to be like what we saw back in 2004 and in the state and in the year 2000. It won't be a 2016 election where he comes real close. The only real candidate I could see really coming close and possibly even taking the state would be Glenn Youngkin, the governor, and that's speaking a lot from the governor himself. So we also have the state of Minnesota, a state that I do think that that Joe Biden will be able to hold on to. Back in 2016, Minnesota almost went to Donald Trump. Hillary Clinton only got it with around a 1-point margin. It was a very, very close race. As we can see, pretty much almost all the counties went for Donald Trump. We have just a few of the suburbs around Minneapolis, and these northern counties went for Hillary Clinton. So I do think that Joe Biden will be able to hold on to the state of Minnesota. It is Minnesota, and we saw in 2020 Joe Biden picked up on his lead, flipping some major counties he needed. He won with 52.4%. to Donald Trump's 45.3%. So that was a win for Joe Biden. It was around a 7-point lead for Joe Biden, and I think it's going to stay like that. It might even improve to an 8-point lead, maybe even 9. But I do think that Joe Biden will hold on to that state. I just don't think there's enough conservative voters in the state of Minnesota to really make that state real competitive. I mean, it is a somewhat competitive state, but it's not a state that Republicans or Ron DeSantis is going to spend a lot of time in trying to flip it. It's only 10 electoral votes, and it wouldn't hurt for the Democrats to keep this state. So moving on, we have Maine at large. I think that Joe Biden will take that Maine at large. With a pretty sizable margin of probably 7 to 9 points, maybe 10. But I do think that he will be able to hold on to that. So in Colorado, also I do think that he will get Colorado with its 10 electoral votes. Now this would be very, very high, very high likely margin at 10.8, 10.9. It possibly could even break the 11-point margin. It could go to 11.5-point margin if that. So it could become a safe state for Joe Biden. My safe margin is 11 points or higher. So he could break that threshold. We could see it go the safe margin or likely, but at the time of this video, I do see it staying in the likely column. So moving on, I do think that is all for the likely states for Joe Biden. I think that Virginia, Minnesota, and Colorado, I think that's all for Joe Biden's likely states. So at the time right now, we have Ron DeSantis at 219 to Joe Biden's 216 electoral votes. So moving on to Ron DeSantis' lead states. We have the states of, first of all, I'm going to start off with Maine's 2nd Congressional District. I think that Ron DeSantis will be able to take that district, a flip from 2020. I don't know if it does show this. It does not show the congressional districts on the New York Times website, but this is the 2nd Congressional District, Douglas County. So I do think that it was a narrow win for Joe Biden. It was around over a 10-point lead, but I do think that Ron DeSantis will do very well because it's right near Iowa, the suburbs of Iowa. And I think that Nebraskan voters are going to be more. I think they're going to want to come out and vote against Joe Biden more than anything, and I think that's why that district's going to flip for Ron DeSantis. If Donald Trump ran, we could possibly see that staying in the Donald Trump in the Joe Biden column. So the next state, I do think that Wisconsin will go for Ron DeSantis. I do think that he will get it with around 1 to 2 points, somewhere in there. I don't see Donald Trump taking this state at the moment, but I do see Ron DeSantis having a little bit more appeal in the state of Wisconsin, being kind of like that, having that charisma, have that fresh start for the GOP, and I do think that Ron DeSantis will be able to take the state of Wisconsin. At the time, I do not think that Donald Trump will be able to. I think he'll come very close, but it's going to be like 2020, as we saw. Excuse me, I don't know why that popped up. I think that Wisconsin is going to go to Ron DeSantis. We saw some key counties that Ron DeSantis did need. Donald Trump did need. He lost. He did not win them from 2016. We can look in 2016. He flipped some major counties. He would have need Door County, and he lost that in 2020. So that was a major blow for Donald Trump in 2020 for his reelection. So this state's a very crucial Rust Belt state, and I do think that Ron DeSantis will be able to appeal there, and I think that he'll win the state of Wisconsin. Moving on, we can go to the state of Nevada, a state that I do think that Ron DeSantis will take. I think he'll take it by a 1 to 1.5 point margin, a margin that is a close margin, but it's still a win, and he'll carry its 6 electoral votes. And I do think that Joe Lombardo, the governor-elect, is pushing this conservative movement in the state of Nevada. He's going to be like the next Glenn Youngkin. And I think that he really can set that path for Donald Trump or Ron DeSantis. I don't think Donald Trump was going to be able to get the state of Nevada at the time, but Ron DeSantis has that Sun Belt appeal, being the governor of Florida, having that new charisma, that new type of Republican action, and I think that that's going to resonate with a lot of Nevadian voters, even though they came out for Adam Laxalt. Even though they didn't come out for Adam Laxalt, I should say, but they did come out for Joe Lombardo. And Adam Laxalt with Joe Lombardo, with both Trump endorsed, but Adam Laxalt was more Trumpian in a lot of things, and I think that hurt his campaign, and I think that's why the voters of Nevada reelected Catherine Cortez Masto. So with this, I do think that Ron DeSantis will be able to take the state of Nevada. So moving on, we're going to go to the state of North Carolina, and this is a state that I will give to Ron DeSantis with a lean margin, and I do think that he'll take this state. We saw in 2020 it was a very close race, very, very close race, 49.9% for Donald Trump to Joe Biden's 48.6%. Donald Trump only won this with like a 1 point margin, and as we saw in 2016, it was 49.8% for Donald Trump and 46.2% for Hillary Clinton. So a major improvement for Democrats in the state of North Carolina. They have a Democrat governor, Roy Cooper, and he is term limited, so a new governor will be elected in 2024. And I think Roy Cooper really set the Democratic movement in the state of North Carolina. And if he were to be the Democrat nominee, I would see him flipping the state of North Carolina. I think he'll do very well in the South, being kind of like that moderate Democrat. And I think that really does resonate with a lot of independent voters. Having that kind of like Democratic charm for the South, I would think that Roy Cooper would be able to flip the state of North Carolina. But it's Joe Biden versus Ron DeSantis. Roy Cooper isn't in this mix. And with that, Ron DeSantis takes the state of North Carolina. So moving on to Joe Biden's lean states. We have the state of New Mexico. With its 5 electoral votes, Joe Biden will get the state of New Mexico. Ron DeSantis will put up a very, very good fight in the state of New Mexico. But I just don't see Ron DeSantis being able to pull it off in the state of New Mexico. I think he would come close, but to me it just doesn't seem like this state is really ready for Ron DeSantis or even ready for Donald Trump. So this is going to stay with Joe Biden and the Democrats. So Ron DeSantis isn't going to get this state. I don't think he will. I don't think he could, even coming up in 2024, if he were to be the nominee. I really don't see any Republican taking it. Maybe Glenn Youngkin, but that's a very, very small chance. And if he does take it, it's going to be like a very, very small margin. We can move to the state of Michigan. I do think that Joe Biden will hold on to this state. It's a flip from 2016 and 2020 with Joe Biden winning with 50.6% to Donald Trump's 47.8%. And, you know, the 2022 midterms really spoke for the Democrats in the state of Michigan. You know, Tudor Dixon, the Trump-endorsed candidate, lost to Gretchen Whitmer, the incumbent governor, with like 10 points. And, you know, it's really just Gretchen Whitmer really paved the way for Joe Biden in 2020, and Joe Biden and Gretchen Whitmer have taken the state of Michigan to the Democratic column once again. But in 2016, Donald Trump was able to flip the state, winning with 47.3% to Hillary Clinton's 47%. Very, very close race, but he was able to flip it. So that was very promising for Donald Trump. I don't think that Ron DeSantis will have enough appeal in the state of Michigan to flip it. I don't think really any Republican candidate in 2024 will be able to flip it. So yeah, so we can move on to the tilt states. We have 50 electoral votes to go. Ron DeSantis at 252 electoral votes to Joe Biden's 236. So moving on, we have Ron DeSantis tilt states. This is the state of Georgia. Now, I am going to put Georgia at a tilt margin for Ron DeSantis, a flip from 2020. Ron DeSantis has an appeal there. It's the bordering state of Florida, and I really do think that Georgia would come out to vote for Ron DeSantis. I know I might get a lot of controversy questions and comments about that, but I really do see Georgia going for Ron DeSantis in this election. In this scenario, I would say, I think it's 16 electoral votes will go for Ron DeSantis. And also, the last state that I do think that Ron DeSantis will be able to pull off will be the state of Arizona. I think the state of Arizona will go for Ron DeSantis, and I think that he will just barely win this state with a very, very, very close margin. And it's 11 electoral votes. I do think that Ron DeSantis will take the state of Arizona. So that's all of Ron DeSantis' tilt states. We now have this tilt states for Joe Biden. The state of Pennsylvania, I do think that its 19 electoral votes will go to the President of the United States, Joe Biden, for a very, very close margin in 2020. We saw Joe Biden won it with over 2.8%, and in 2016 it went to Donald Trump with his 48.2% to Hillary Clinton's 47.5%. And also the state of New Hampshire, I do think that he will take the state of New Hampshire, and I think that that'll be a very, very close race, but Ron DeSantis isn't going to be able to take it. I do think that Ron DeSantis will win this matchup, this 2024 matchup. I think that he'll do very well in the Sun Belt. Arizona, Georgia flip, Wisconsin flip, Nevada flip. Everything else stays the same from 2020, and this equals Ron DeSantis winning with 279 electoral votes to Joe Biden's 259. So thank you all for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. This was a 2024 matchup with Ron DeSantis and Joe Biden. If you guys did like this video, please hit that like button. And if you guys like my channel, subscribe. Consider subscribing and watch out for more videos, future live streams, and great commentary. With that being said, thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.